Hi, today I'm going to show you a test run with the back-end components as well. I'm starting Docker stats to show you which containers are coming and going. We start Docker Compose UI, which is responsible for taking orders from our Lambda functions to start and stop the stage 2 containers. We start SAM local, which is responsible for hosting our Lambda functions locally. And we already have our system under test running. Now once we've built our stage 1 images with npm run dc-build, we can bring them up with npm run dc up, and then we start the CLI. In the bottom left terminal you can see the validated, filtered and sanitized job file contents. In the top right terminal, Docker stats is showing us the stage 2 containers being brought up. In the bottom left terminal we're checking and retrying that the stage 2 containers have come up and are responsive. All testers are now running. As the test run progresses, in the CLI tester complete panel, that's the donut meters, you will see the percentages progress. These are total percentages per tester. In the running statistics panel, just to the right of the donut meters, each row represents a test session as defined in the job file. Here I'm tailing the CLI TLS tester log just to save right arrowing on the CLI terminal to the TLS tester screen and not being able to also see the app tester progress. Back to the running statistics panel. The thresholds you see are also defined in the job file as alert thresholds. A given test session will be considered a fail if the bug count exceeds the alert threshold. Alert thresholds are useful for brownfields projects where you have existing defects but still want a test to pass. These are the definitions. You may find yourself referring to these quite often. Back to the running statistics panel. You'll notice a complete column. These cells represent percentage complete of the test session, where you may have more than one of these for a given tester. In order to initiate a test run, the build user needs to define and supply a job file. This is the documentation that will help explain the schema and help you construct your job file. Next, I'll show you some example job files. This job file is very similar to the one we're using for this test run, except we're targeting nodegoat.sut.purpleteam-labs.com, which is deployed using the Purple Team Infrastructure as Code System Under Test project. The new bugs panel of the CLI shows bugs over and above any specified alert thresholds. If this count is above 0, then you are going to have at least one failed test session. The total tester progress meter to the right of new bugs shows the combined progress of all testers. These logs I'm showing you are the raw CLI logs taken from the current finished test run. This particular log is from the low priv user test session of the current test run, currently being written to the top of the two CLI window panes as we speak. You'll notice that this particular test session is only testing a single route, the profile route of our system under test. This particular log is from the admin user test session of the current test run, currently being written to the bottom of the two CLI window panes as we speak. This test session is testing two of our system under test routes, the profile route followed by the memos route. As you can see, the server tester is currently inactive. Now we're looking at the TLS tester log. There is only ever one of these per test run. You'll notice the color codes in amongst the text. These are used to display the log text in color. We'll see how this works soon. We're looking at the same CLI logs as before. Tools such as cat, less and tail, if configured correctly, will render the color codes. Just reiterating that these CLI logs are currently being written. I've just taken them from the finished test run. This is the low priv user test session CLI log from the application tester. As you can see, this is a failed test session. This is the one and only TLS scanner test session CLI log that I showed you before, but with the color codes rendered. These CLI logs are what is printed to the CLI terminal if you are running it in CUI mode versus no UI mode. Right arrowing and left arrowing in the CLI terminal will switch between the different tester windows. As you can see, this is a failed test session. When you see the outcomes have been downloaded to message, that means the test run is complete and you can now inspect the report files generated by the emissaries and the result files generated by Cucumber. This is what the outcomes archive looks like once it's been packed by the orchestrator and sent to the CLI. You'll notice the report and result files. This is the HTML report file generated by the application emissary, Zap Proxy, for the low priv user app scanner test session. It lists the alerts or defects, along with how they were found, how you can reproduce them, as well as directions for fixing them. This is the HTML report file generated by the application emissary for the admin user app scanner test session. This is the HTML report file generated by the TLS emissary, testssl.sh, for the one and only TLS scanner test session. This is the markdown report file generated by the application emissary for the low priv user app scanner test session. This is the markdown report file generated by the application emissary for the admin user app scanner test session. This is the CSV report file generated by the TLS emissary for the one and only TLS scanner test session. Here I'm highlighting the severity levels. These can be one of low, medium, high or critical. Refer to the job file documentation for further details on these. This is the JSON report file generated by the TLS emissary for the one and only TLS scanner test session. These are the 3 ND-JSON result files generated by Cucumber for the 3 test sessions. LowPriv user app scanner test session, admin user app scanner test session, and the one and only TLS scanner test session. The app scanner admin user test session for the profile route has completed. It's now starting on the memos route. The app scanner LowPriv user test session for the single profile route has finished. The log which has just scrolled off the screen provides defect counts and details of where to look in the reports. This is the log and outcomes files documentation. The app scanner admin user test session for the memos route has completed, which means the test session it's in is finished. In this case, both LowPriv user and admin user test sessions have failed. The CLI log file that I showed earlier contains details of how to use the report files to locate and remediate the defects. You'll also notice that the stage 2 containers have been brought down. Now we've just right arrowed to the TLS tester to watch it finish. The test session for the TLS scanner has now finished. This also failed because the defect count exceeded the alert threshold that the build user defined in the job file. You may also notice that the total tester progress meter hasn't reached 100%. This is because the server scanner isn't currently enabled. As you can see, the outcomes files have been downloaded for you to inspect.